So one thing that there's test questions about is something called the keyboard focus. So I'm going to close my mix window by hitting Command plus equals, and it brings up my edit window. So my edit window allows me to see a bunch of different things and manipulate things in different ways. So I want to have access to all of these features, and I want to use my keys for this. So I'm going to make it so I can see my clips list here, and I will move this out so I can see this a little bit better. And I want to see my groups list as well. One thing that I don't like about the way that this particular session is set up is it's showing the full path. So I can go over to my clips list, and this is something that I would use for like diagnostic things, but I wouldn't really use it because it just shows me what drive things are on. So what I can do is show, take full path off, and then it just shows me what the files are going to be called, which is more useful to what I'm going to show you here. Okay. So I'm going to zoom in. So right now, I'm looking at the session, and maybe I want to be able to zoom in and out. I'm clearly going to be able, I'm going to want to do editorial work off the beginning and end of clips here. And right now, what I would have to do is I'd have to do it with the trim tool or something like that, whereas I could do it just by navigating it around with simple key commands. So to do that, I would have to have my key, what's called my keyboard focus, in the edit window right here. And right now it is in the edit window. So to move this keyboard focus, you can just click on this thing that some people call the Arizona button. So right now it's in the edit window, so anytime I hit a letter, it's going to do something that's associated with an editorial thing. If I click this one, or I can also hit Command Option 1, 2, or 3. So if I hit Command Option 2, it brings it up here. So now if I type in a letter, let's say if I type in B, it's going to take me to the beginning of my clips that start with B. This is useful sometimes, but mostly in post-production I find, or maybe if you have a large sample library going, something like that. But most of the time, not super useful. Most of the time you want to have it here. Another thing you can do, which is kind of handy, is you could go down here into the groups. You can hit Command Option 3 and bring it down here. And then if I hit A, it's going to turn on and off different groups. So if I type in B, it turns this on, and you can see that there's a color coding associated with it. I can turn it on and off. But again, this is only useful on occasion. And if you do use these, you should know how to get around it with key commands as well, by hitting Command Option 1, 2, or 3. But the main one is Command Option 1, which is this one here, which puts it in the edit window. So now I have a lot of interesting choices. So I'm zoomed out further than I want to be. So now I can hit R and it zooms me out even further, or I can hit T and it zooms me in further. Oh gosh, where did I go? Oh, I'm like way at the end. Whoa, I'm super far in. I don't even know where I am. I'm going to hit return, take me to the beginning, and try again. So now I can use R and T, and those two keys will allow me to zoom in and zoom out, which is pretty useful. Other things that I could do is I might want to trim off the beginning of all these drums, and I might just want to go down the line here. So what I can do is, wouldn't it be cool if I could just tab to transient to the first drum? I could use the tab key, and tab to transient is off, so I'll turn it on. And it will tab over to the first drum, which in this case is the snare bottom leakage. Whoops. Actually, let's go up to the kick drum here. So usually the kick is the first event. So what I could do if I wanted to now is I can use the A key, and it's going to trim off the beginning. I'm going to use the T key to see if I didn't do more damage than I wanted to. Looks okay to me. So A will trim off the beginning, and then I want to go down to the track that's below it. So if I want to go down, up and down, this is done with P and colon. So P goes up, colon goes down. So I can move downwards, and you may or may not be able to see that I've moved to the tracks below it here. But once I'm on the snare 2 track, I can hit A. I can just go colon. I can just keep hitting colon. Now this one, I want to zoom out a little bit. So again, I can use R and T. So this is an acoustic guitar. So what I might do is I might go back to the beginning of the session with the return key. Whoa, that went really far. And then I can go, I can use the quote key, and the quote key will take me to the right. It's like hitting tab. So with this one, I'm a little bit leery about trimming this off. So what I might do instead is go back a few nudges here. And I can use the keyboard focus to navigate to the left by small amounts. And in this case, I'm going to use the greater than or less than keys, and I'm going to go back a little bit. And what I might want to do on this one is I might want to fade it in instead. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to use A to trim it off. And then maybe I will use the quote key to tab to transient over to this. I should make this, you can use these rulers to make this taller. There's other ways, but I haven't gone over them yet. But what I might want to do is I might want to fade this in instead. So the fade keys are D, F, and G. So I can use D, and it will fade from the beginning of the clip to where I am now. I might want to do that same thing down on the track below it. So what I might do is I might navigate to the left, and I can go to the left with L, and then I can go down with colon again, and then I can trim off with A. And then I can, again, I can tab to transient. I would probably want these two to be the same. They look like they belong together. So I could just tab to transient over if I'm being purely key command driven here. And then I can hit the colon key. And then I could fade it in again with the D key. So these are some of the things that you can do with keyboard focus, and you can do a lot of cleaning up really fast with this. So I recommend moving around, and then going up the other side. You can do that with some different keys. So I can go to the end of these clips, and if I was doing the end of the keys clips, sorry. I'm going to zoom out so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to hit the T key. What happened? I broke it. Oh, I was hitting Y. Whoa. Sorry. R key. So I might want to fade these out. So I could put my cursor at the end. If I'm not cheating with the mouse, I can hold down Option, hit Return, and it takes me to the end of the session. And then I can hit the L key, and it takes tab to transients me to the other side. And then I can use the G key, and it will fade to the end. So D fades to the beginning, F is a crossfade, and G fades to the end. Usually the keys on the left side of a cluster like that relate to the beginning, and keys that are on the right side of the cluster relate to the end. Also, if I did want to just straight trim it off, I could hit S and then it would trim it off, but I probably wouldn't want to do that with drums. Anyways, that's some ideas of how to use keyboard focus.